The weather is finally giving us something to talk about again. After a brief lull, we're heading into a much more active pattern with multiple storms developing, and there's a lot to cover. As always, when we're looking more than a few days ahead, the best place to start is with the 500 millibar winds. If you've been following along, you know this is one of my favorite tools for long-range forecasting. Surface level weather is tricky. It's unpredictable, chaotic, and constantly shifting. But the patterns higher up in the atmosphere give us a much clearer picture of what's coming. Think of it like opening the hood of a car. If you want to understand what's happening at the surface, you have to look at what's driving it from above. Right now, we have two major features standing out in the upper levels of the atmosphere. First, there's a large closed-off low-pressure system lingering in the southwest. At the same time, we have a strong polar jet stream racing across the northern United States. These two systems are going to play a big role in shaping our weather over the coming days. As we move into Tuesday, Wednesday, you can see these features starting to come together, creating a more organized pattern that will drive the upcoming storms. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. One of the immediate impacts we'll see starting today is a southwest to northeast flow, bringing Pacific moisture into the southwestern United States. This is great news for areas that have been dealing with wildfires, as it will provide some much needed relief. However, this much moisture all at once comes with its own risk, including the potential for flash flooding, especially in burn scar areas where debris flows become a concern. Cities like Los Angeles, San Diego, and parts of southwestern Arizona should be on alert for heavy rain today and into tomorrow. As we move deeper into the week, things really start to ramp up. By Wednesday and Thursday, moisture from the Gulf of Mexico will begin surging northward into the south central plains, particularly in Texas. This warm, moist air is going to collide with a lobe of cold air trapped inside the closed-off low-pressure system, creating the perfect conditions for thunderstorms and heavy rain. Meanwhile, the polar jet will send a surge of bitterly cold air into the northeast, likely bringing the coldest temperatures of the season so far from many locations in that region. Unlike previous cold outbreaks that affected a large swath of the country, this one looks like it will be more concentrated in the northeast, sparing places like Florida. Temperature anomalies over the next few days highlight the stark contrast between the northeast and the central United States. From Tuesday through Thursday, temperatures will plunge well below average in places like upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, with some areas seeing temperatures 20 to 30 degrees below normal. At the same time, much of Texas and Oklahoma will be experiencing unseasonably warm temperatures. Some areas could be 20 degrees above normal, which will help fuel the upcoming severe weather. This stark temperature gradient is a classic recipe for a major storm system. Storm Prediction Center has already issued a day 4 outlook highlighting a slight risk of severe weather in Texas, with San Angelo being one of the key areas to watch on Wednesday. This outlook could expand to include San Antonio and other surrounding areas as we get closer to the event. The severe weather threat will likely begin with isolated hail and damaging winds, possibly even a few tornadoes. Then as we transition into Thursday, the system will evolve into more of a mesoscale convective system, meaning we could see widespread damaging winds along with the potential for embedded tornadoes and prefrontal supercells. This will impact areas from San Angelo to San Antonio and up through Dallas on Thursday. So if you're in this region, now is the time to start preparing for potential severe storms. But severe weather isn't the only concern with this system. Heavy rainfall will also be a major factor. Starting today and into tomorrow, a plume of moisture will spread across Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and up into the Ohio and Tennessee valleys. By Tuesday, a separate system, a fast-moving clipper, will bring snow to the Great Lakes region. That blast of cold air moving into the northeast will also come with its own round of snow, but it looks like it will be fairly quick moving. The bigger concern remains the closed off low in the southwest, which will become the dominant feature shaping our weather as the week progresses. By Wednesday, a massive area of moisture will begin spreading across the south central United States, bringing heavy rain and thunderstorms. Even in areas that don't see severe weather, the rainfall rates will be significant, leading to potential flooding issues. The Arkansas region in particular could see some of the heaviest rain as moisture surges in from the Gulf. Meanwhile, the backside of this system will bring snow to parts of Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico, potentially creating a decent winter storm for those areas. As this system continues to develop and strengthen on Thursday, we could be looking at a significant winter storm taking shape in southern Colorado and northern New Mexico. At the same time, severe weather concerns will persist in Texas, with potential impacts spreading northward toward Oklahoma City. The main threat will be heavy rain and strong storms, but we'll also have to keep an eye on flash flooding risks as this system moves eastward. Given the amount of moisture in play, flooding is becoming an increasing concern. One of the big uncertainties with this system is how much snow will develop on the northern side. Right now, it doesn't look like one of those widespread blockbuster snowstorms that cover half the country, but that could change. The one thing we do know for sure is that this system will produce a tremendous amount of moisture, leading to heavy rainfall and potential flooding in many areas. The Weather Prediction Center has already issued today 5 excessive rainfall outlook, highlighting the south central United States in a slight risk for flash flooding. Seeing a slight risk outlook this large, this far in advance, is pretty unusual, especially in January. That suggests this system has a high potential for significant rainfall and flooding problems. If you're in southeastern Oklahoma, southwestern Arkansas, northeastern Texas, or northwestern Louisiana, you'll need to be particularly mindful of rising water levels and potential flash flooding Wednesday through Friday. Meanwhile, up in the Northeast, lake-enhanced snowfall is likely, especially in areas near the Great Lakes. Rochester, New York, for example, has a 77% chance of seeing more than 2 inches of snow by Wednesday morning. Snowfall will primarily be concentrated near the lakes, but central Pennsylvania, southern New York, and even Boston could see some accumulation as cold Arctic air surges through the region. Looking at the broader pattern, the Climate Prediction Center's 6 to 10 day outlook shows a significant shift. From January 31st to February 4th, we're going to see a flip in the pattern. Warmer than average temperatures will dominate the eastern United States, including Florida, while colder air settles into the west. This shift will create an active battle zone in the central U.S., leading to a continuation of storm system. This pattern could persist well into February, with increased chances for snow in the northern plains and Intermountain West, as well as continued severe weather threats in the south and southeast. Now, La Niña technically started back in December, but up until now, it hasn't really had a dominant influence on our weather patterns. In fact, this whole winter has felt like we've been in some weird in-between phase where we haven't really been experiencing a true La Niña or El Nino pattern. But I think that's about to change in a big way. Over the next few weeks, La Niña is going to become a much bigger driver of our weather, and that's going to lead to some significant shifts in where we see the most active weather. To put this into perspective, let's talk about what a typical La Niña pattern looks like. Last winter, we saw a strong La Niña setup, and that meant a few key things. There was a lot more rainfall along the southern tier of the U.S. due to a strong Pacific jet stream, while the Ohio Valley and parts of the southeast were drier than normal. At the same time, the northern plains and Pacific Northwest were much warmer than average, and we saw several rounds of cold air outbreaks dipping down into the central and eastern U.S. That's been a common La Niña signature in past years, and based on what we're seeing in the forecast models right now, we're heading back in that direction, but with some key differences. As we move into February, I think we're going to see a setup where much of the Gulf Coast and Southeast stay drier than normal, continuing the trend we've already been seeing in parts of the Southwest. Meanwhile, wetter than normal conditions are going to take over in the Ohio Valley, meaning more opportunities for rain and snow in that region. The biggest shift, though, is going to be in the temperature pattern. We are going to see a significant push of colder air into the Midwest, and eventually that will work its way into the Northeast. I think February is going to be a much colder month overall, especially across the northern plains and the Midwest, where we could see some truly brutal Arctic air outbreaks developing in the early to middle part of the month. Now, let's talk about what's been happening recently and why this change is such a big deal. Over the past few weeks, we've been dealing with a really interesting jet stream pattern. The jet stream has been diving well down from Canada, dipping all the way to the Gulf Coast. And that's what allowed that Gulf Coast winter storm to happen. We also had another winter storm before that one, stretching from Texas all the way to the East Coast. But that's not going to be the case moving forward. Instead of seeing the jet stream dive that far south, we're going to see it shift much farther west. And that is going to have major consequences. This shift means we're going to start seeing a lot more activity in the central U.S., especially across the Great Plains and the Ohio Valley. Snowstorms are going to become much more frequent in the central and northern plains, as well as the Midwest and Ohio Valley. On top of that, we're also going to see an increase in severe weather. Yes, you heard that right. Severe weather season could start ramping up sooner than you might think, with damaging winds, hail, and even tornadoes becoming more of a concern in areas like Dixie Alley and the southern plains. So what does that mean for the storms we're tracking right now? Well, in the short term, we already have several winter storms on the way. This week, we're expecting a system to move through Canada, bringing snow to the Great Lakes and Northeast on Tuesday. Some areas, especially in the higher elevations of New England, could see moderate to heavy snowfall. Then on Wednesday, another quick moving system will bring more snow to the Northeast. It won't be a major storm, but it could still drop a few inches of snow in some spots. By Thursday, the first of many storms in this new pattern will start developing. We're looking at a system that will bring showers, possibly some thunderstorms, and even a chance for severe weather in the southern plains. At the same time, snowfall is expected in the Rockies as this storm moves east into Friday and Saturday. It's going to bring more widespread rain to the southeast and possibly some wintry weather from the Midwest to New England. Beyond that, the pattern looks very active with more storms following a similar track. We'll keep seeing these systems moving in from the Pacific, crossing the Rockies, and bringing snow to the northern plains and Midwest while dropping rain across the south. This is going to be a big shift from what we've seen so far this winter, and it's going to keep things interesting through at least the first couple of weeks of February. Looking ahead, February is shaping up to be milder for most of the country, but that doesn't mean we won't see any Arctic blast. In fact, there are signs that we could get 1 or 2 strong shots of cold air in the second week of February, especially in the northern plains and Northeast. The Climate Prediction Center's latest forecast is right in line with this, showing above average temperatures likely for the East Coast, Gulf Coast, and Four Corners region, while colder than average conditions will be more frequent in the northern plains and Pacific Northwest. Snow and rain are expected to be above normal in the Midwest, Northeast, and Ohio Valley, while below average precipitation is expected in the Gulf Coast, Southeast, and Four Corners states. And for those of you wondering if we're going to see another Gulf Coast winter storm, I really don't think so. I don't want to say it's impossible because, hey, the weather is full of surprises, but based on what we're seeing right now, the chances of another Gulf Coast snow event happening anytime soon are extremely low. So that's what we're looking at heading into February. A major shift in the pattern, more frequent winter storms in the plains and Midwest, potential severe weather ramping up, and some big changes in temperature trends. I'll keep you updated as this evolves. So make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on. Thanks for watching. Hit that like button, and I'll see you in the next forecast.